Roxo Media House.
It's a basketball-intensive Frogs Today with special guest, CBS analyst Bill Raftery, former Frog great Brandon Parrish, and a recap of last night's win over Oklahoma. Plus, we'll check in on everything else going on in TCU athletics. Now here's your host, the voice of the TCU Horned Frogs, Brian Estridge.
Welcome into the Wednesday edition of Frogs Today here at the Flying T Club Studios. We got a big show lined up for you. Predominantly basketball, with good reason. The Frogs number 11 in the country right now. Obviously had the game against Oklahoma last night. Now turn their attention to Mississippi State. That'll happen on Saturday as part of the Big 12 SEC Challenge. Jamie Dixon's team garnering a lot of attention across the country after that win against Kansas. Bill Raftery from CBS Sports. He's going to join us here in just a couple of minutes, get his take on where the Frogs stand right now. Former Frog great Brandon Parrish is going to stop by. He'll give us what he thinks the outlook is for the future for this Horned Frog basketball team and how they've changed since his time here when they won the NIT championship in Coach Dixon's first year. And then, of course, we've got Jamie Plunkett and Bingo Merricks. Post-game last night, breaking down that matchup against Oklahoma. We'll get their take on where things stand. So, basketball intensive here today on Frogs Today, but there are some other news and notes that we need to get into, including TCU women's golf, where Caitlin McNabb shot a 2 under 70 to lead the Horned Frogs in the match play. They call it the match in the desert in Arizona at Superstition Mountain Golf Course. TCU fired a 7 under 295 in that lone round of the tournament. By the way, UCLA and Arizona tied for the top spot. They were 11 under at 277. TCU finished 6th, by the way, overall. That 295, good enough for 6th place. Horned Frogs return to action on February 13. They'll be in Nassau in the Bahamas. Pretty good road trip for them, huh? Number 3 tennis team for TCU, the men's side, if you will, finally hit the road for the first time up in Tulsa. Winning ways continued for this group that has started out now 3-0 on the season. You see some highlights here of the Frogs against both SMU and Abilene Christian here in Fort Worth to start the year. We caught up with David Roditi after these two matches. This team comes back pretty much intact. They continue to have great success. And we asked the coach, why TCU? Why the success? Why do tennis players want to come to Fort Worth?
TCU as a school is booming. It's never been as good as it is right now. It's just a beautiful school. If we can get them to visit, we have a very high success rate once they visit and they see the facilities and they see the school and the campus. Also, we've been lucky to have a lot of success, so they sort of know that they've come to a program that regardless of the players that we've had, we've been top 10 for 8 years in a row, so that helps. And also what our pros are doing out there, Cameron Norrie, Alistair Gray, Alex Rybakov, Nick Chappell. It's great to see them have success at the next level. And that's sort of what we sell or what we can offer is that if you come to TCU, you're going to get better and you can be the next Cameron Norrie or the next Alistair Gray out there. So that's usually how we get them here. And today was special. We had Nick Chappell, one of our ex-number 1 players who was part of that Final Four team that in 2015, he made his coaching debut today, so that was fun. That was cool.
That's head tennis coach on the men's side, David Roditi. TCU track and field underway for the spring. They've got a couple of meets under their belt already. We had an opportunity to catch up with one of their jumpers yet. In fact, one of the good ones, Jaron Holmes, joins us right now. Jaron is a guy who's had some success here early on. He gives us his perspective on where this track and field team is early on.
Since I was like a really young kid, I always liked running, and one year it was like this thing called the Great Train Race, and there was a table set up for a track team. And personally, I didn't want to do it at first, but my parents just kind of made me. And I was when I was 8 or 9, and ever since then I've been running track. First, I liked the campus, and it was like very nice, and it's North Carolina. You know, you've heard of them for basketball and stuff. And also the coach that was initially there when I was getting recruited knew my coaches from high school, so it made it kind of easy to transition. And then over the summer before I got to North Carolina, there was a coaching change. So, I tried to stay at North Carolina to see what it was like. And, things didn't work out, so I came here. Felt great. It felt so long. I didn't end my season the way I wanted to last year in Eugene, so it was definitely felt good to get back out there and get off on the right foot. It definitely gives me confidence. It gives me confidence, but I still have to remember that it's still January, and meets you don't get points, you don't score points until end of February, March. So I just have to keep working and keep improving every day.
Track and field back at it on February the 3rd. All right, coming up next, Bill Raftery from CBS Sports. Yes, great ambassador for the game of college basketball. He joins us next when Frogs Today continues after this time.
Dave's Hot Chicken is a cult favorite and now has 2 locations in Fort Worth, Bryant Irvin Road on I-20 and Berry Street at TCU. Both owned and operated by Horned Frogs. Mention the Frogs Today show and get 10% off anytime and order online at daveshotchicken.com.
The Flying T Club provides the everyday TCU fan and alum the ability to specifically support TCU student athletes. Flying T Club offers 3 levels of memberships. The Flying T Club is a nonprofit organization supporting the brand development of TCU student athletes through a series of unique event-based networking opportunities, which are exclusive to our members. These events provide a great social engagement tool for our members and student athletes alike. Follow them on Instagram at Flying T Club or online at flyingtclub.com.
Texas-based Happy Water offers the best tasting sugar-free kids drink ever made. Happy Water comes in 4 delicious flavors that you can find at local retailers and on Amazon. Each pouch contains 0 grams of sugar, 0 calories, and 0% juice. Head to happydrinks.com for more information and to purchase Happy Water. That's HAPI drinks.com. Live happy. Be happy. Drink happy.
Back we come on Frogs Today here on the Wednesday edition right now, and we are honored to be joined by the 1959 Mr. Basketball USA, who now is Mr. College Basketball. There's no question. Bill Raftery from CBS Sports joins us. Bill, good to see your face. Thank you for taking the time for us today.
Nice to see you, Brian. Chris, the last time I saw you, you were smiling pretty good up in Lawrence.
Yeah, exactly. That was a great win, and one of the reasons why we wanted to get you on. You had a chance to see Jamie Dixon's team now in person against Kansas, the number 2 team in the country. You see a lot of college basketball, some of the best teams in the country. Where does TCU stack up in your mind, Coach?
Well, the other day they were in the top 5, I would say, the way they played. What's interesting, watching them and getting ready for the game, Jamie is great at making adjustments. And by that, it's a total metamorphosis in a way from the way he coached at Pitt. He's taking advantage of the talent. And then the other thing, his humility is such that he credited the assistant coaches with suggesting that, we got tired of West Virginia. Let's use our bench a little bit more. And this is without Peavy, too. I mean, you're talking 10, 11 people that they're not substitutes. They know how to play. I mean, they're not just, grabbing straws out there. They can contribute. When you start with your backcourt, it's as good as any in the country, really. And they complement one another. Miles can play on the ball, off the ball. Damian Ball, the same thing. And I just feel that if they continue to play like that and the other people just keep their game coming, hopefully Eddie Lampkin is okay. I know he got nicked up a little bit. You've got a good inside game. They look like they enjoy playing with one another. And I'm sure fans say, well, why wouldn't they? But some teams, it's a labor for them, and they seem to play with a little more joy.
One of the things that we talk about when we're talking about coaches is the good ones have that ability to adjust, to as you talk about how different Jamie Dixon handled this team as opposed to maybe teams in past years at Pitt. Isn't that the sign of a good coach, to be able to modify your game to fit your players' games?
Right. You understand what you have, and from what he told me, and we've all read, that started last summer, where he really got into. Well, we've got some kids who can get up and down the floor. They can make open shots. They can dribble, drive. They got a little post-up game, and putting that all together obviously is very impressive. And what's interesting in your league, the defense is extraordinary, as you well know, and they've got the ability to score against good defense. And I think that's what separates them in a way from a lot of teams in the conference. Their ability to make you make up a couple of baskets. You might take a bad shot or a hurried shot or turn it over. They're just a tough out, basically. And the thing I said to Jamie when it was over, I'll see you in March. I mean, it's a given they're going to be there. And, they've got the goods. And again, we all know you got to get hot at that time of year. Matchups become essential, and you got to get by somebody where you steal the game, at least one during the NCAA tournament.
When you look around the country and you see a lot of Big East basketball, ACC, you really see it all. Give me some sense of where you think the Big 12 stacks up. Here in Big 12 country, we think this league is as good as anybody and maybe the best in the country. Where do you think it stacks up?
I'll be an Irish politician. Since this is Big 12 country, it's the best league. Every league's got, maybe, I don't think they have the depth you have in the Big 12. Some leagues are a little top heavy, one or two teams that would be considered, capable of winning, getting in the tournament. But I don't think anybody's quite as deep. I don't know. There's some mental toughness about watching all these teams. Iowa State comes to mind. I mean, you've got to really play well. Baylor, just think about their ability to shoot the ball and dribble drive. I mean, they're a dilemma because 3 or 4 guards they're very mobile, keep active. So I think everybody would consider the Big 12 from top to bottom the best league.
When you look at Damian Baugh, and this is the guy to me that really makes this team go. Obviously, Mike Miles puts up great numbers and will be an NBA player. Emmanuel Miller didn't have his best game against Kansas, but we've seen what he can do. Chuck O'Bannon can be a threat. To me, Damian Baugh is the glue guy for this group, that he can kind of do it all. He's a stat sheet stuffer, if you will. Is he a next-level player?
You're stealing Clark Kellogg's line there, Steph. And you got to be careful the way you say that. You could get in trouble.
I know.
We mentioned before about his ability to play on or off the ball. I think one real great attribute he has, he cuts very well,
Yes.
Which is sort of, people don't pay attention to it, but he gets available, puts pressure, drags people out because he can make the deep shot as well. So now he's a solid kid. I think everybody recognizes that. And, you mentioned Miller. I went into that game saying this kid's an NBA player, watching the prior games, and he really didn't have his A game, but they didn't need him. He's great at that elbow, catch, turn, shoot, put it on the deck. So, again, we get back to the depth, and I think they can get away with guys not having their best game because somebody else can come in and step up and contribute.
You have a history with Coach Dixon, obviously, from his days there at Pitt. You got to be proud of the job that he's done here. This was not a great basketball job over the years. Billy Tubbs obviously had some success here, but it's been difficult. And for him to come back to his alma mater and have this success, pretty good job on his part.
Well, he always loved the place. I know that. And talking to him, loved playing there. What he did at Pitt was absolutely phenomenal every year. Again, that league was maybe like the Big 12 in its depth in those days, too. I mean, it wasn't an easy league and going into some tough buildings, which is the same as the Big 12. But, he's one of those guys that likes what he's doing, gets the best out of players. They understand their roles and how to mesh as a team. They're willing to sacrifice, make the extra pass. And that's something he's carried over. I'm sure Ben Howland is one of the foundation blocks for him in terms of outlook. And yet even Ben changed the way he coached too a little bit when he got to Mississippi State. Of course, at UCLA, he coached one way. But that's what makes great coaches, I think, where they really enjoy the rapport. They love their kids to be unselfish, contribute, and sounds corny, but play for the alma mater kind of a thing. And that's the way they look when you watch their team.
Yeah, the passion that they display for college basketball is important. Much like you, Bill Raftery, we do appreciate the passion that you show for this sport. It comes across, obviously, every week on television. Honored to have you with us here today. Thanks for making the time.
Thanks for having me too, Brian. Good luck. Have a great run.
There he goes, Bill Raftery from CBS Sports joining us. Coming up next, former Frog Brandon Parrish is going to join us. We'll preview this matchup coming up with Mississippi State on Saturday. Get his take on where the Frogs stand. We do that when Frogs Today continues after this timeout.
For exclusive interviews and content on TCU recruits, subscribe now at frogstoday.com. Any sport, anytime. It's your source for all things TCU. Only on frogstoday.com.
Say hello to the water of tomorrow. Richard's Rainwater. Richard's Rainwater is 100% rain, refreshing, renewable, and the only ingredient we use in our water. Why rain? Because everyone deserves access to clean water, and rain is a 100% renewable resource available everywhere. Drink the rain. Save the planet. Shop now at richardsrainwater.com.
The Flying T Club provides the everyday TCU fan and alum the ability to specifically support TCU student athletes. Flying T Club offers 3 levels of memberships. The Flying T Club is a nonprofit organization supporting the brand development of TCU student athletes through a series of unique event-based networking opportunities, which are exclusive to our members. These events provide a great social engagement tool for our members and student athletes alike. Follow them on Instagram at Flying T Club or online at flyingtclub.com.
Good stuff there from Coach Bill Raftery. Kind of him to join us here today on Frogs Today. And as we mentioned, kind of give a TCU perspective now on where this team is. And for that, we turn to one of the all-time greats, Brandon Parrish, is in the Flying T Club studios. Good to see you, man.
Man, always a pleasure to be here. Love what you guys got going.
I'm honored to have you here. I want to dive into, because you and I had a quick conversation the other day. You were kind enough to sit in with us on radio for a couple of minutes, and you talked about this team and the fact that they're so flexible. The fact that they can kind of play any game you name. This group kind of impresses you a little bit, doesn't it?
Oh, my God. This is one of the most impressive groups coaches had since he's been at TCU. And just watching their cohesiveness, watching the way just the experience, like I said, the way these guys are able to read each other on the court without talking so much. And it's just like it almost comes like it's second nature to them. And you can tell the coach is really putting a lot of work with them on their transition game, on their defense, and it's paying huge dividends for them now.
I know you've been out at practice this week checking them out. Bill Raftery was talking about how good coaches modify, they change based on the talent they have, and you were telling me even at practice you see slight differences in how Coach Dixon handles this team as opposed to maybe the team that you were a part of.
No, absolutely. Like you said, the great coaches, they change based on the team they have, and I think Coach has a really fast, dynamic team, much more dynamic than when we played, but these guys can literally a lot of them can play multiple positions, can guard multiple positions, and he really lets them go. That's what I'm really impressed to see is that our first year, he kept the reins on us pretty much because, it's his first year with a new program. So, you got to keep a lot of things in check. But now you can tell he's much looser, he's comfortable, and he really truly trusts these guys.
And in transition, they almost feel like a thoroughbred who's at the gate, ready to go all the time. That this group would rather push the tempo than play in the half.
No, absolutely. And I think what brings a lot of this game is their defense. These guys play a lot in the gaps. Yeah. They got a lot of long athletes. Even the shorter guys have 6'5", 6'6" wingspan. Like a guy like Hade Wells. Yep. He's only listed as about 6 foot 6'1", but when he puts his arms out, he can take up a lot of space. And you could tell the way they play, they force long passes, and all those guys, like you said, ready to shoot the gaps and take off.
It's interesting you talk about that because I know Jamie Dixon's going to like the fact that you mentioned the defense. Mm-hmm. Everybody kind of gets caught up in the offense. We talked about that after the Kansas game. You put 83 points on Kansas. Everybody's going to talk about that. Mm-hmm. But it was really the defense that spurs that on.
No, absolutely. Like I've watched many games, and a lot of times you see teams where they're 5 or 6 minutes just flustered. Yep. They don't know where to pass. They don't feel confident passing the ball. They don't feel confident driving the ball because we got guys in gaps. We're switching. And what I really like to see is like the small guards on our team, they don't back down to nobody. Yeah. They truly believe they can guard fives, and they trust the help. Yeah. They talk so much, and like I said, the way they're able to switch, it's almost just like they're switching without even pointing to each other. Each guy knows where the next man is.
Here's the other thing about those guards too is, and I'm going to blame you for this. In transition in years past, you'd try to get to the 3-point line.
No, exactly.
These guys don't try to get to the 3-point line.
No,
they want to finish at the rim.
No, I was telling the physio, physical therapist Matt yesterday that all these guys are super athletic. Like maybe on our team we might have had 2 or 3 guys who could windmill, but I think all these guys can go out there and windmill on a given day. And so it's just, you love to see these guys be super dynamic, and they love to get out in transition, play at the rim, play above the rim, and they have super strong bodies where they're finishing through contact.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, they're not scared of anybody.
Yeah. You like what Coach is doing schematically? Then you like what he's doing with his group?
No, absolutely. Like I said, I think he lets them go, but he knows when to kind of want to bring them in. I like the way he coaches us when we have a lead. I like the way he coaches us when we don't have leads.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, just kind of taking a step back and not playing so much, you kind of get a different scope of things. And I really like what Coach is doing this year.
You know, one of the themes that we had with Bill Raftery that I brought up that's kind of been in my mind now for a couple of weeks is Mike Miles gets a lot of attention, deservingly so, because of the numbers that he puts up. But it's Damian Ball that really makes this group go to me.
No, absolutely. And you can see the trust that he has in Damian. A lot of times you can see that he's giving up the ball before they even crosses half. He's letting Damian bring it up. He's letting Damian run a lot of the sets that he's playing off ball. But the beauty about Mike Miles is that when things break down, you can always put it in his hands and he can make something shake.
Yeah.
And thinking about it, Damian can do the same thing. You've seen a lot of times where he gets the ball on the late clock and he's going downhill on guys. He's finding switches in. I just love the kind of court vision that he plays with. Like, he's one of the guys that if I was playing, I would love to play with him. I would stay spotted up and keep my hands ready because he's always looking.
Yeah, because he's going to get in that shooting pocket every time.
Absolutely.
You know, that's the other thing. Here's one more thing about this group, the depth of it. I mean, going to be hard-pressed to find a team across the country that can go as deep with as much experience as this group has.
No, absolutely. And that almost speaks that's a testament to the way coaches recruited these guys, man. Like, you know, in the past, you know, you had a lot of young guys, and you had a lot of guys who kind of were just sitting around, but all of these guys are truly invested into this team. And I saw it from the summertime when they were working out. They were all truly invested. And like I said, a lot of this is a second home for a lot of these guys. And, you know, after you had that first bad taste in your mouth from experience, you take the next one and you're truly grateful for everything that comes with it. Yeah. And you can see that these guys they're all embracing each other. And like I said, they got extreme talent across the board.
You grew up in Arlington. You had a chance to be a part of that NIT championship team. Now you've been overseas playing international basketball. I'm gonna miss some of them. Hungary, Spain, Portugal,
England,
Germany.
Yeah.
You had a chance to see the world, Brandon. That's awesome, man.
No, it's truly a blessing, man. Honestly, I would have never imagined. You know, you would have told me my first day at TCU 5 years later I'd be traveling to England and playing basketball there. But literally, I think the moves playing in Europe has truly shaped my character. It shaped my experience. Just really shaped my whole outlook on life. Just because, like I said, be able to go places to see different cultures and meet people who are from a different walk of life is really poured into me so much. And like I said, something I cherish each and every day, and I don't think I'll ever take the experience.
Well, when the timing's right, we're looking forward to you being back in Fort Worth permanently too. We hope to see you around a lot, man.
No, you guys will, man. I love it. I love Fort Worth. I can't stay away. I've only been home for about 2 weeks, and like I said, here I am already.
Exactly.
So.
I love it, VP. Good to see you, man.
Hey, man, good seeing you. Thanks for having me.
Brandon Parrish, one of the good guys here, joining us for the Horned Frogs now, turning their attention to Mississippi State. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. Some perspective, though, first from last night's game. We'll get to that when Bingo Merricks and Jamie Plunkett join us next after this timeout.
For exclusive interviews and content on TCU recruits, subscribe now at frogstoday.com. Any sport, anytime. It's your source for all things TCU. Only on frogstoday.com.
Say hello to the water of tomorrow. Richard's Rainwater. Richard's Rainwater is 100% rain, refreshing, renewable, and the only ingredient we use in our water. Why rain? Because everyone deserves access to clean water, and rain is a 100% renewable resource available everywhere. Drink the rain. Save the planet. Shop now at richardsrainwater.com.
Dave's Hot Chicken is a cult favorite and now has 2 locations in Fort Worth, Bryant Irvin Road on I-20 and Berry Street at TCU, both owned and operated by Horned Frogs. Mention the Frogs Today show and get 10% off anytime, and order online at daveshotchicken.com.
Frogs Today rolls on right now. Last night, TCU taking on Oklahoma at Schollmeyer Arena. For some insight and perspective on this one, we join the guys who host our pre- and post-game shows that you can see live from Schollmeyer on our website at frogstoday.com and also on our YouTube channel as well. Of course, we're talking about Jamie Plunkett and former Horned Frog great Bingo Merricks. They joined us from Schollmeyer with their take on last night's game right now.
Thanks, Brian. Jamie Plunkett here alongside Bingo Merricks at Schollmeyer Arena. TCU football, let's start there. beat the Oklahoma Sooners 55-24 this year. That's a 31-point margin of victory. TCU basketball almost matched that here at Schollmeyer with a 79-52 victory over the Sooners. It's complete domination, bingo. From start to finish for the Frogs, they just dominated.
When you talk about that fun fact, when you talk about the 31, I got a fun fact for you. TCU had 31 rebounds when Oklahoma had 31 points at one point in the game. That's how dominating TCU was tonight.
Look, no Eddie Lampkin, out with the high ankle sprain, but Micah Peavy comes back after missing the last 4 games with a back injury. He adds 13 points and 9 boards to the mix. He looked like his old self, not only offensively and rebounding, but defensively as well, didn't he?
I believe, Michael Peavy, he's definitely defensive minded, right? And so he came out, played well on defense, athleticism, moving around. He looked really good, and it looked like he didn't miss a beat at all.
It looked like he didn't miss a beat. The Frogs didn't miss a beat down low without Eddie Lampkin down there as well. They were just as physical as they've been, if not more so. You've noted that a couple times here through our conversations about just how physical this Horned Frogs team was tonight.
I was really surprised, and I was happy to see the physicality from 1 through 5 in the positions for the Horned Frogs tonight. And the physicality definitely, I feel like, got Tanner Groves out of his game tonight and resulting in him fouling out tonight.
Yeah, second leading scorer for the Sooners, averaging a little over 10 points per game. He finished with just 2. Like you said, he fouled out. He was visibly frustrated throughout the game. But even more so than that, Grant Sherfield, their leading scorer, you talked about it on our pregame show ahead of time. He's put up more than 100 shots more than the second closest shooter on this Sooners team. He's averaging 17 points a game. He finished with just 5 points on 2 of 11 shooting tonight. What did TCU do to defensively lock him down?
It just goes to show that Coach Jamie McNeely's scouting report, they followed it to a T. They were closing out on shooters, and they was putting Sherfield down early. Didn't let him see no good looks. For a shooter and for a scorer like Sherfield, you want to see a couple go in easily, and the Frogs didn't let that happen for him tonight.
In fact, he airballed one pretty early on. The 2,000-plus students that were in attendance let him know that for the rest of the game. It was the second largest showing for a fan base here at Schollmeyer Arena. Over 8,100 Horned Frog fans showed up for the blackout on Tuesday night as TCU moves to 5-3 in Big 12 play and 16-4 overall this season. Brian, they head to Starkville, Mississippi this weekend to take on Mississippi State as a part of the SEC Big 12 Challenge. Back to you in the studio.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. Look forward to another pre- and post-game show, the next home game for the Horned Frogs next week. On the road on Saturday, they'll be taking on Mississippi State as part of the Big 12 SEC Challenge. We'll have highlights for that one, from that one, I should say, for you next week on State of the Frogs with Jamie Dixon, which airs on Tuesdays here on Frogs Today. Don't forget, we need you. We need you to like, to comment, to subscribe, most importantly, and to share all of our material that you find at frogstoday.com and also on our YouTube channel as well. Numbers keep growing, but we need you. We need your friends as well. Spread the word about Frogs Today. All right, until we see you next week for State of the Frogs on Tuesday, 2 more editions of Frogs Today. I'm Brian Estridge. Have yourself a great week.
Frogs Today is brought to you by the Flying Tea Club, supporting TCU student athletes, and by Richard's Rainwater. Say hello to the water of tomorrow. Frogs Today is a production of Roxo Media House.
Roxo Media House.